Good evening, everybody. I do hope you're all safe and sound. Welcome to the first in Intuit QuickBooks Ask the Expert series. This is the first of many of these sessions going out at the normal time, daily from 8:30 to 9 a.m. But with the loan announcement last night, we decided to bring an impromptu Q&A straight to this afternoon so that we can hopefully clear up any questions you may have in your mind. My name is Aaron Patrick, a chartered accountant and QuickBooks certified trainer. I own an online accounting firm called Boffix, which uses the best cloud technology available to help small businesses get through these sort of times and get information to you at your fingertips. If you require accounting advice, payroll or bookkeeping, or any other information about these aids, please get in touch. Okay, so that's enough about me and on to today's session. If you have a question, then please use any of our social channels to get in touch. That's Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. Use the hashtag QBATE, that's QBATE, to get a question over to me. Okay, while we wait for the first of the questions to arrive, let's visit the facts and explains what has changed. Last night, the Chancellor strengthened support on offer for businesses. There was a scheme already up and running called the we get that right? Coronavirus Large Business Interrupt Loan Scheme, or as we all call it, the Business Interruption Loan Scheme. But it's actually been enhanced. Why is this important, and what's that going to actually mean to our clients and small businesses like yourselves? In these unprecedented times, and I promise I'll only use that phrase sparingly, small businesses have had their income drastically reduced, and in some cases, this has been reduced to zero. In response, the government has introduced all manner of aid to help businesses try and keep afloat. From the job retention scheme, the self-employed support scheme, tax deferments, and other small emergency reliefs, there's been plenty of aid available for small businesses to hopefully get through this. But crucially, these aids are only being frantically developed, and the physical cash that you need to actually keep your business survive are not available at this moment in time. We've heard timeframes of June being muted at the moment, so obviously we've still got quite a bit of time until this cash is available in your business. So businesses have been urged to talk to their banks to get access to loans and other financing options in order to keep cash flow alive for small businesses. Prior to yesterday's announcement, lenders were being overwhelmed. I've seen numbers of 200% in terms of new applications going on at the moment. This has resulted in lenders having to make drastic decisions, which involve lenders only focusing on existing customers or only some core products. And in some circumstances, lenders have had to exit the market completely, giving small businesses less opportunity to obtain much needed finance. I've heard from my clients when they've been trying to get loans that that some sectors have been completely and utterly told they weren't allowed anymore. So things like hospitality, travel, leisure, advertising, marketing, those sort of sectors were told that there was no money available for them. But with last night's announcement, the Chancellor emphasised the importance of banks moving quickly to support the economy, jobs, and business. So, to maximise the support available, the Chancellor is extending the business interruption loan so that all viable businesses affected by COVID-19, and importantly, not just those unable to secure regular commercial financing, will now be eligible, and they'll need to keep their finances operating during this difficult time. So what that tends to mean, or what that will mean, is the number of providers will continue to grow. So we're going to have more people or more banks able to give out more loans. And finally, a small but really significant update on this is there will be no personal guarantees required for borrowings under 250k. And if you need to borrow above 250k, only 20% of that will require a personal guarantee. And this is huge for our clients and for small businesses. And the other good thing about that is it also applies to finance already offered. So the benefit of this is that the personal guarantee that's been taken away, it means that given that we've also had the announcement on Friday that there's a restriction and we've had less in terms of directors' legal duties and relaxing of wrongful trading laws, means that we should have many of our directors now having less to worry about and gives them more opportunity to sleep at night. And they're in the battle as well. They want to get their business up and running, and it just gives them more of a chance to get their business to survive. So there's a lot to take in there, and there's a lot of questions up in the air and everything else. So let's go and have a look and see what you have been saying, and let's see what our first question of the day is going to be. So Tim over from YouTube says, I'm interested to know if businesses can get council tax relief for officers they are now not currently using. That's a great question there, Tim. So every council has been given the ability to hand out additional aid. Now, this aid is coming in the form of business support grants. And the business support grants themselves is another one of these aids where the cash hasn't yet arrived into our clients' bank. Now, what we have been seeing though is we've been seeing a lot of movement in this at the moment. So I've got clients now that have received letters in their it come straight to them to their business premises, and it's important to realize it's to their business premises that they're getting letters on how to claim for this aid. So the letters themselves, and it varies depending on what type of council you've got. We've got a couple of councils who are opting for an online support system. So they'll create some sort of website. You have to go in, you log in, you provide the details required. And we've had other councils where they've been requesting that clients email into them the information they need. Now, the information they need tends to be quite small, so it's been quite useful for clients to be able to at least apply for the money available. And normally it's things like what bank account they want to be paid into, nominated person who would be involved in that bank, and items like that. So hopefully when it comes to the council tax relief, it should be something that you'll be able to claim. And if you're not currently using them, as long as you're still the business that has that rate applied to them, and even if you're getting the small business rates, then you're still should be eligible for that particular grant. So make sure you keep an eye out for letters. Make sure you got access to the post box and everything else, and then apply. You do accordingly as what each individual council is asking for. We've also had Jim from Twitter, and he asks, if you can furlong staff and still get a loan, can you hire back and furlong again? Would that make a difference? Now, one of the things to remember about this is some of this is relating to HR and legal issues, and we can't go into too much of that from me personally. I'm an accountant, not a solicitor, but the information I can give you is as follows. Basically, when it comes to your opportunity to prolong some staff, it's all going to be down to you giving that staff member an opportunity. The opportunity will be, do you want to say to them, or their opportunity to say is, because of the lack of work available in the business and because of everything else, you're going to give them the opportunity of, do they want to continue working for you at that reduced rate of 80% on a furlong status, or do you want them to actually be, or the other option for them is, unfortunately, that you'll have to get rid of them and you'll have to let them go. Now, with that in mind, and that's kind of the facts around it, when it comes to can you bring them back and everything else, you are given the opportunity to do so, but you've got to make sure you've got business needs for it that supports that. And also, the minimum requirement is 3 weeks for them to actually be prolonged at any point in time. So you've got to make sure that that particular role is something where you can have enough of a support background, and you've got enough in your back pocket to be able to say that if you were ever criticized, or if that employee was ever to come at you in terms of a legal dispute or anything like that, you've got enough backing so that you can say that that role basically had work at this point, didn't have work at that point, and then you can kind of move it on from there. If you're in a position where you don't have that business support, then I would really advise you to talk to a legal representative at that point, just to make sure you're fully covered. This whole system isn't really designed to have people on and off and you choose accordingly. You really should be looking at, if you are making a particular member or a particular role prolonged, you want to be making sure you've got business support to do that. And it's also worth noting as well, please make sure that that people are aware that when you are looking to prolong a staff member, that you're not just doing it because you feel like you can then claim it back afterwards. You've got to make sure the right steps are in place. So make sure they've had all the legal documentation, their new contracts, all that sort of thing, and you're being communicating with that staff member They know exactly what their status is. They know exactly why you had to make that decision. And then that's going to make it easier for them in terms of accepting that position. And then you will then be able to claim for that going forward. Hopefully that answers the question. It's a bit of a difficult one there because for long it's something that we're still waiting actually for HMRC to open up the portal in terms of claiming the money back. So when it comes to claiming the money back, we're going to know much more information in terms of what we can and can't do in those situations. John Twine on Twitter says, can you get extra tax break for any loan taken? Do you have to pay any taxes on these loans? So loans themselves don't bear any additional taxes in terms of the money that you get in or anything like that. You won't have to increase your tax liability or anything else related to it. A majority of these loans, the business interruption loans that is, are provided interest free. So there shouldn't be any interest related to them either. But if there was interest applied to them for whatever reason, maybe it's after the terms or anything else, from a tax point of view, the interest that you bear on those loans is going to be a tax deductible source. So you are able to claim back any tax or put it against your profits, therefore reducing your taxable element for that business. Now, just to be clear on that though, that's purely on the loans. If there's grants being applied to you, then in some circumstances you will have to put that as a taxable income, but it all depends on the circumstances on that one. But loans themselves, the income from the loan, then no, there'll be nothing to worry about in terms of tax. Just seeing if there's any other questions on here. We've had a direct message from Twitter and it says, I have had a bad credit history and was stricken off in the past. Can I get a 2,500 or 250k loan? And that's a really, really good question. And this is the point where this new scheme that's been announced has been so important. Prior to this scheme being announced, I had clients who were being refused loans, and it wasn't just based on their credit history, it was based on an all manner of issues. Now, with this new interruption loan being announced and the fact that the banks have been given more guidance, they've been given more resources from the government, we should be seeing more the idea is that all businesses should be considered going forward. Now, they're still going to want to have particular information from you. So you're probably going to have to give them some sort of information to do with kind of the impact that COVID-19's had on your business and what plans you have to mitigate these business. I've seen those questions being asked before. But by and large, lenders should be passing more loans and you should have more approval rates going forward. So, use this opportunity to talk to your bank, talk to the lenders out there, and hopefully you'll get that loan needed to keep your business going. We've had another direct message from Facebook. Can I pay back a loan early? I've heard 30% loans were the norm. When I go to the money, I want to pay back early. Okay, yeah. So obviously the loan itself is each loan or finance option that you're going to be able to get from a bank or whatever your lender is that you're going to be utilizing. They're all going to have different aspects to that loan. So some of them are going to have an opportunity for you to pay back those loans early, some won't. And it's all going to be down to basically what type of loan you get. Now, these business interruption loans that we're talking about now, they're designed to be very, very fluid and very easy for you to have no penalties or anything like that from paying it back. One of the things I've been saying to my clients at the moment is at this moment in time, I really do urge clients to go out there and find finance that's going to help them get through these difficult times. Even if at the moment, at this point in time, you're 100% okay, you might want to think about the future and look at how long this is going to last for, and then talk to your bank if there's anything they can offer in terms of keeping those loans going for as much as possible and keeping you as a business going. When it comes to can you pay them back early, and is that the norm, then that's basically what these loans are designed for, is that when you get the aid from the government coming in, really some of that should be used to pay off some of the loans. But again, it all depends on your personal business needs. Had another direct message from Twitter. Does my business have to be around for long to qualify? That's a really, really good question. Now, again, it depends on who you're taking these borrowings from, and they're going to have different criteria. But these new loans that were announced and these new business interruption loans are designed for even if you've got a brand new business that's set up. And this, as long as you've kind of done it in the right manner, and you can show that you've got a valid business case, and that, again, you can answer those questions of what the impact of COVID-19 and what my business and what I have in place to mitigate these impacts and everything else, then you should be fine. What you will probably have in those sort of circumstances is a need to be able to provide things like cash flow forecasts and cash flow statements and everything like that, because the banks and the lenders won't have that historical information to be able to assess you in terms of what's going to be available to you. So that's a case where you really need to kind of up your game in terms of making sure that your cash flow forecasts and everything else are absolutely spot on, and making sure that they're available to be able to get from your clients. And I think that's most of the questions that's come in so far. So again, if you do have any questions coming your way, please do remember that we're using the hashtag QBATE to be able to answer and ask questions coming along. We'll obviously give a couple more minutes in terms of new questions coming through. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just make sure that we've got nothing else in the background. Brilliant. Another one's just come through. So DM from Twitter. I think my biggest client will have trouble paying me soon. Should I get a loan now to protect myself? And again, that's where we really do kind of urge our clients at this point in time to think about what's going to happen. Now, this is a really difficult question, and it's going to go case by case, and you're going to have to think about it from business by business. But you really do need to be utilizing cash flow forecasts and looking at what you expect in terms of money coming in, outgoings you've got, and see how long your run rate's going to be. And if you do have a particular worry against a particular type of client or customer that you've got, then they're the sort of considerations you should be looking at in terms of looking at how much money you'll need going forward. Now, in that sort of case, I would highly recommend that you talk to your bank and communicate with your bank that these are your concerns, this is what you've got, and they should be able to offer you maybe not a loan, but maybe something more short term. So maybe in that sort of case, they're thinking about an extended overdraft or something along those lines to help you through these difficult times. But this is where it's really crucial. We've all in this together. And when it comes to trying to predict the future, we all need to be making sure that we've got the right tools at our place. We're using things like QuickBooks and everything else so that we can see what our cash flow forecast is, so that we can make sure we can tell our banks and communicate with our banks and make sure that if we do need to have some money for a particular issue or a particular problem, then that's where we can come in and help. We had another question in from Twitter. Should I ditch my accountant to save money? Great question. And it's a very, very valid question as well. Now, this is one where, especially with my clients, one of the first things I've told them is that when it comes to cash flow, they need to be taking control of it and command of it. Little things can help in this case by talking to suppliers that they probably don't need in these sort of circumstances. See if there's any way that they can get repayment holidays or whatever it's going to be. And it's not just your big, large payments like your rent and your rates or anything like that, but everything you've got. So if you've got a subscription that you're not currently using or something like that, consider if it's a need at this point in time, and consider if it's something you shouldn't be paying for. And your accountant's exactly the same one. If you're not getting that use out of them at this point, or that's something that's going to be critical to you, then have a word with them, talk to them about it, and then just see what they can offer you. Every accountant's different out there, but it is something where, in this sort of day and age, we're all in this together. We all know exactly how difficult this is, so we're all there to try and help one another. And if that's the case, of stopping your accountancy fees for the next 3 months, then that should be something that should be considered. Craig David says, in terms of loan repayment cover, what will banks want to see? Given the first year, the crisis may push them into a loss. Have the banks given any indication of where they're looking for from cash flow forecasts? So it's not that there's a kind of standard format to this, or a standard, this is exactly what every bank's going to look at. Each one will have their own different criteria, and they're going to have their own different forms they want to complete. But just as a general point of view, most of the time they are going to want to see some sort of promise, or some sort of indication, should I say, that your business is going to be able to afford to pay this back later down the line. Now, that could be a cash flow forecast. That could be something as simple as them looking back at your historical bank data and knowing that in normal circumstances, you've got a nice, healthy business, and they'll be able to go from there. So it's going to be a case of communicating with the bank. The bank themselves are going to have lots of different finance options available, and some of them are going to be more complicated than others in terms of getting the finance available. So please communicate with them, talk to them. I know from my own personal point of view that banks are really difficult to talk to at this point in terms of getting hold of. You're in queues for 2 hours long in some circumstances, but it's worthwhile having that conversation with them, talking to them, and then finding out what they can offer. And in a lot of circumstances from my clients, they haven't needed anything other than just giving them their bank details, and the client and the accountant, the bank can see what they've got and go from there. And with that particular question, where they're talking about how you may have had a loss in the future, in the past, or this may push you into a loss, then again, that's why the money has been given to the banks from the government as part of this interruption loan, so that they're not just giving away money that they have no guarantee on. The government's guaranteed that money, and the idea is that money is then hopefully passed to you. You get aids available to you, and in time you pay that back. Colin Riley from Facebook. Maybe you can help. If I'm a director of a limited company, I have 2 staff, I'm going to 80% pay. Sorry, let's start that one again. I have 2 staff, I'm doing the 80% pay, so that's okay, but I can get it pay myself, good PAYE. And if I can, I still work a little with emails and quotes and basic Facebook hours. So people know we'll be back open when we can. Okay. I completely understand the question there, and in times like this, I completely understand why sometimes it can get a bit lost in communication. But basically, what the question is there is, more than happy when you're a small business that you understand that you've got to put your staff on furlough, and then you'll be able to claim 80% of that back later down the line. And remember, if you're going to put your staff on a furlough basis, then at that point they won't be able to work for you. They're effectively on gardening leave. Then they won't be able to kind of give you kind of extra work or anything like that. And what they're saying here is, as a director, he's still going to have to work, still going to have to carry on doing duties from being. And we recognize that. We've made sure we looked into it from a legal point of view. Them sort of things is, it's not ideal, but it's acceptable in terms of what sort of position we're in. HMRC even gave guidance that for limited companies who are looking to get aid at this point, then they have to put themselves on a furlough basis, and they have to, take 80% of their standard director's loan, director salary, which is normally that £720. So they're only going to get 80% of that. So if the government's giving you guidance on it, then I wouldn't worry too much. You're doing everything you can. Technically, as a director, you can't just walk away from your business. You have your director's responsibilities, so you're still going to have to be working on that company no matter what. So even though you're going to put yourself on for long, then that's absolutely fine. You're still going to be able to do a bit of work on your business, keeping it going, keeping those directors' responsibilities going, and you should be absolutely fine. Monty Piers from Facebook page. I've looked at the furlong scheme for my employers. I did not apply as it was not available. Do I have to continue paying them? Then I claim it back when the scheme is open. Is that the only way? Now, this is one of the things where we've got to be absolutely clear of what the current situation is. The current situation is that at this point in time, the scheme isn't open to anybody in terms of being able to get that money back and be able to talk to HMRC about what they're due back. Now, we don't know when that scheme's open. We're hoping that it's going to be open in the not too distant future. So at this point in time, no one has missed out on it. No one has kind of fallen out of the gaps or anything like that. Now, the facts are that you still have to, if you're going to be looking at doing that for your employees and you're going to be putting your employees on a furlough status, then you have to write to them, you have to tell them that's the status they're in, you have to let them know that's going to happen, and then you need to borrow using the schemes we're talking about, so the business interruption loans. You need to borrow that money now if you've not already got it, so you can continue paying your staff at the 80%, and then you'll be able to claim that aid back at a later date. Now, the only other fact to remember, and it's something you might want to just talk to your accountant with or look back at your own records, is the only facts we know is that this was all based on February 2020 in terms of your wages or your salary, your payroll submission, should I say. So whatever your payroll submission said at that point, that's what HMRC have said they're going to utilize in terms of making sure, or the claims and everything else. Now, we don't 100% know what that means. We don't know if that means that you're allowed to go back and make an adjustment to that period, or if they've already taken a snapshot of that period and that's all they're going to base it on. But as long as you've made a payment to someone in February 2019, the facts are, 2020, that is, as long as you've made payments in 2020, then we've already been told the scheme is able to be backdated to the 1st of March 2020. So therefore, we're under the assumption, and we're telling our clients they should be okay to prolong their staff now, borrow the money, or use savings now, or deferment of taxes, whatever it is they need to get that money now, pay their employees, and then when that aid's available, it's up to yourself or your accountant to grab that aid for you, and then you'll be able to be able to get that money back in. Joe Turner from Facebook. Will this loan be available to every business? Been trading for around 18 months, have 1 year's accounts filed. Most people I've spoken to are saying I can get they saying I can't get it because they've only been trading for 18 months. Again, great question. And this is where the confusion lies. So prior to yesterday's announcement, that was the issue. I had a lot of clients who were being turned away. I had a lot of clients who were having to look through other avenues. And there was a lot of clients who were confused about why they were told about this interruption loan, but then when they went to talk to their banks about it, it wasn't available. As of yesterday, the announcement is that there's more money being passed to the banks, there's more money being available to them, and the government's going to look at supporting more banks and giving more um, uh, 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 things for them. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, from a bank's point of view, they're going to be supported by the government to give these loans to you as a business. So since yesterday, there's more options available. So you do need to kind of talk to your bank now as yesterday, and that there where you've only been trading for 18 months, that's why now with the banks having this extra power, this extra money being given to them, and this extra support from the government, that the idea is every small business should be able to have access to this, including people like yourself. So talk to your bank. They've completely had to update it all from yesterday. So make sure you talk to them, and hopefully from there, you'll be able to get some form of aid. So we've got one more question, this time from YouTube. So this is the last 2 minutes of today. So speculative, I know, but do you anticipate long-term the government will increase VAT to claw back at expenditure in this crisis? And it's a great question. It's one that, if I had a tinfoil hat and I could put it on now, I would kind of put it on just to be safe. But yeah, unfortunately, realistically, the government's been really, really good in terms of being able to give aid to us. I never in my days did I believe that they were going to go this far in terms of deferment of things like VAT and stuff like that, and the aid that they're providing and everything else. They really have put together a really good package that hopefully, fingers crossed, majority of our small businesses will be able to use that to fight and survive. With that though, it's obviously going to come back with some sort of consequence later down the line, whatever that's going to be: increase to VAT, increase to income tax, increase to some other form of tax, or introduction of a brand new tax. That's all kind of up for debate and up for something that will probably happen when all this is blown over. So, but we'll all be in it together. It's one of those things, we're in this together now. We're here trying to make sure that we're all supporting one another and getting through this. And if that means we have to kind of have extra taxes in the future, then that's how it's have to be. So with that, then that comes to the end of our first of these Q&A sessions. Remember that this is the first of many in this series, and we've got not tomorrow, tomorrow's Saturday. We've got Monday morning at 8:30. We're going to be having exactly the same format as today. And I know that throughout the week, we've got other experts as well here to pass on to you as much knowledge as we can and answer those burning questions as we go along. So a big thank you to everyone for your involvement today. Thank you to Intuit for letting me come and talk to you today as well. And remember, same time, or not same time, but tomorrow, Monday, we're going to have 8:30 ready and waiting to go. And you can look forward to many an expert through this series. So stay safe and have a great weekend. And I will see you all on Monday. Bye now.